Donna?
Yes, and I'm really pleased to meet all of you. Namaste. I've taken yoga for many years, part of my simplifying and improving my life.
Beautiful.
So my journey began 30 plus years ago when I, at that time, was in my 20s and bought a 14-room house that needed a lot of work. So lots of changes in my life went through. And I now live in a studio apartment, and I don't even have a separate bedroom, which is a little small for me, but it's fine. It's been almost 4 years. I am trying to get something bigger. But so I also improved within 5 years of starting my own business as a house cleaner, something that I should have done a long time ago. I am a creative person by heart, and I didn't realize how much I hated desk jobs and just confined spaces and dealing with the regular public and all of that, how much I hated it. So it came to kind of a dead end, and then I just said, what can I do? And I just started house cleaning and amassed 35-star reviews within 3 years rather. So
Wow.
yeah, so, and I never look for work anymore. I've gotten tons of compliments, and I get texts that say, we love you, and tons of bonuses and cards and chocolates and things, and so it's made me very happy. But some sadness has come into my life within the last 4+ years. My dad passed away. And so I guess part of my question is that because I've reduced, I don't have a lot of space, it turned into a big project, which is pretty done now, but there is still a lot of stuff left of my dad's, and I just don't know what your opinion would be or your thoughts on what do you do in a case like that? I mean, I'm trying to keep some things, sentimental things. I can't keep everything. I really am. I had a wave the other day in thoughts of possibly trying to move to just, I don't know, just clear out more, and it's hard because, you know, it's just sentimental, so I don't know what you would say about those things.
Well, having gone through it first with my dad 5 years ago, and with my mom now, and I bought their house, so I live in my childhood home, and it's so much my mom and dad, and it's just so, feels so good. But I always know when I get quiet what thing to get rid of that week or that day. You'll just, they might disagree with me, but I can't be in a hurry with it. I have to just go. I think these guys said, if you don't, we all know the how. Yeah, get a dumpster and get rid of it. But if you don't know the why, it comes back in. So you'll just clutter it up again with other meaningless stuff. So I think when it comes to grief, because grief has no timetable, I think you're going to know it when you know it. When they were joking about CDs and VHSs and things like that, I literally have a rack. I kept about a quarter of my mom's VHSs. It looks really cute because it's the one she loved the most. And I said, will they be there forever? Probably not. But if they are they hurting me? No. If they do, then they have to go, and I'll know the why. So I think don't be hard on yourself. Take your time, but recognize when the shift is taking place so you don't, quote unquote, wallow. So you'll know. If you take yoga this seriously, which you obviously do, you know in your heart when it's time to let go. Sure. You know, and I don't envy you going through it, but you got a sister in it because I am too. So, you know, you'll do the right thing.
Thanks.
It's spot on. The how-to is not going to be helpful because Ryan could give you a how-to, like his packing party, right? And say, get rid of all the stuff. And then you end up regretting that and then feeling resentful, well, toward Ryan, or which is okay. But you wouldn't be the first person. But you really would feel resentful toward yourself, right? And so that's why the how needs to be birthed out of the why. My mom, 14 years ago, found out she had stage 4 lung cancer, and it was 2008, and she was down in, she had just moved down to St. Petersburg, Florida to finally retire on Social Security. She found the perfect place to be, this little 1-bedroom apartment, and so she crammed 64 years worth of stuff into a tiny 1-bedroom apartment. And shortly after she moved down there, she found out, and then she spent the next 8 months or so going through chemo and radiation, and then eventually she passed. And I spent a lot of time with Mom that year in Florida as she sort of struggled through that whole process. And when she passed, I needed to make one more visit down to Florida. It was to deal with all of her stuff. And that was sort of the impetus of all of this, because I'm going through all of her things, and I didn't have enough room in my big-ass house for all her things, so it was rent a giant truck, rent a giant storage locker with climate control, because her stuff needs to be comfortable, and just lock it away in perpetuity. It wasn't really, I wasn't getting value from it. What I was really doing was I was creating a mausoleum of stuff. And maybe once a year I'd go visit it and look at it or something, theoretically, although if I'm being honest with myself, I was never going to. I was just going to pay a few $100s a month to waste that money to store things I wasn't getting any value from. And worse, and this is what Lisa alluded to here, the stuff wasn't the problem. It was the cost of the stuff, not just the monetary cost, but the emotional, the psychological, the mental clutter that holding on to those things create. All that space it takes up in the back of your mind. And so when you let go of the stuff, it's not really about letting go of the physical possessions. That's helpful. It allows you to move into a studio apartment. But it also is about freeing up that space in your heart to make room for the things that are truly important to you. Now, that's not to say that I didn't hold on to some of Mom's stuff. I certainly did. Here's the paradox of minimalism, though. Whether it's sentimental items like my mom's stuff or just everyday useful items, by owning fewer things, I get far more value from those fewer things than if I were to water them down with 10,000 or 100,000 trinkets that simply get in the way. Because what is clutter? Clutter is simply holding on to things that no longer add value and get in the way of the things that do. And if the things that you're holding on to are clutter because they're getting in the way, well, then that is a sign that you can begin to let go. And then once you do, you'll realize, oh, the things that remain, because we're not the deprivationists. We're not about getting rid of everything. We're not monks or ascetics. And I think it's important to make that distinction, because having those few things left, you actually amplify those. You get far more meaning and joy and sentimental value from those things than if you were to have everything weighing you down.
Yeah. The deprivationists.com was taken, so we went with the minimalists.
Thank God.
Oh, this reminds me, I went down, my grandfather passed away a few years ago, and my grandma had to sell her house and downsize, and she was like, you should come down, like, you'd be the perfect person to help me downsize. And I am not the perfect person to help you downsize, because I'm very blunt, and my patience with it is like, I mean, I was able to conjure that context of compassion, but it's not something I love to do with my grandma, helping her get rid of her stuff, because it's a process. It's a huge process. But I remember as I was like helping her get rid of everything, she has this collection of steins. She's from Germany. Like she moved over here when she was like 19 years old. So she was like born and raised there. And I was like admiring her collection, and she saw me looking at it. She was like, you should take all those steins. And I'm like, Oma, I love you. I was like, and that's an amazing offer. I was like, I will take one of them. And the reason why I bring this up is because, like Josh said, we're not the deprivationists. Like I like having that sentimental stein. I mean, I use it. I put some like change and some random stuff in there. But I look at that, and it reminds me of my Oma, and it makes me think of all the awesome times we had. And like I totally understand that like my memories are not in that stein, but things can certainly trigger memories. And I would feel the same way if I would feel worse if I had taken that whole collection. Well, now I've got a whole collection of steins, and I got to display them, and I got to worry about if I got space for them. Where now I have that one sentimental thing. I look at it, it triggers memories all the time. It's a beautiful thing. But if I had all those steins, it would actually be doing the opposite. It would be causing me a lot of stress. So it's okay to hold on to a sentimental thing or two. But yeah, holding on to a hoard of sentimental items, there's not much sentiment in that.
Thank you, Don. Thanks.
Thank you.
Did you enjoy this standalone Patreon highlight? If so, you can listen to full episodes of the Minimalist Private Podcast, available exclusively on Patreon. Visit patreon.com/theminimalists or click the link in the description. Your support keeps our podcast and YouTube channel 100% advertisement free.